The 7th November 2022, a turning point, a kick-off day in our mutual efforts of upvaluing vulnerability by rejecting educational poverty in the traces of a period of pandemia. My name is Harold Göthson. My voice is not a neutral voice, as I'm one of the founders of the Swedish Reggio Emilia Institutet in 1992, and since 2011 a member of the board of directors in Fondazione Reggio Children Centro Loris Malaguzzi, that today present a charter for future common actions and agreements. With my Swedish voice, I want to expand the question of recovering into an international dialogue on the challenges of education in our time. Today, worldwide, also in Italy and in Sweden, we are daily facing growing attacks violating decency and responsible civic actions, inviting hate and despair in our everyday lives, as well as attacks on our efforts to meet the three global challenges of our time: the growing waves of nomadism, the crisis of the planet, the crisis of democracy. And then came the virus. First, I want to stress that responding to all these challenges is not primarily a matter for universities and scientific projects. It is a research matter for democratic citizens acting with social values that have to be negotiated with or opposing those with most power. In this, we need to create practical theories in dialogue with science, art, teachers, families, and politicians. We need to connect these challenges with an educational idea, strengthening preschools and as well as compulsory schools to become possible democratic meeting points. This challenge our preschools and schools to support a movable transcultural identity as something necessary in a world where strict definition of culture, class, ethnicity, and discourses are challenged by our need to develop strategies to live and develop together. It also stresses the idea of education as a fostering of citizens and the concept of knowledge as something negotiable and expanding. This takes us to the questions of global citizenship. This takes us into the questions of how a globalized democratic society shall survive and develop in relation to political, cultural, ethnical, religious and economic diversities, as well as to gender and different ways of defining the concept of a family. Education should be looked upon as a meeting place where the skill to learn together is a basic goal that is needed in a democratic society, and therefore one of the most important challenges for every teacher and to every didactical organization. The primary goal of education should be to support the development and the redefining process of a society that supports diversity but still supports community. This is more necessary than ever to belong together. More than ever, the world needs deepening of the definition of the liberal and secular idea of and practice of democracy. In a growing number of countries, this idea is under attack from extremism and populism, honoring the autocratic attitude of only one viewpoint. This is focusing on the pronominal I and we, neglecting the you, the respect for the other, my and your opponents, the other points of views. This is the challenge for all the international networks surrounding Reggio Emilia, to look for supporting strategies all over the world to create theories and an everyday practice aiming towards a children's international of belonging. An effort to support schools and preschools to fulfill the rights of all children to belong to a new global, democratic and ecological citizenship. Today, the challenge of the other is also to question the anthropocentric gaze on the planet. Terry Tempest Williams, one of the American nature writing authors, made a speech for the graduates at the University of Utah, and she said to them, "In the future, brave women and men will formulate a declaration of interdependency that will be read and respected beside the Declaration of Independence as a proof of our evolution of our power to grow and expand our knowledge. The open space of democracy will offer justice for all living, plants, animals, rocks and rivers, as well as for humans. Democracy encourages multiplicity and dislikes conformity. In the space of democracy, every voice is heard and counted." Her quote gives us an expanded concept of democracy. This is the base for expanding and connecting a democratic citizenship to an ecological citizenship. I want to say some words of the relation between education and democracy. Diversity is the impetus of all meaning-making and learning. This makes democracy a very special epistemological culture that invites the challenging of established ideas rather than conforming to those that are already known. The interesting thing about democracy is that the concept is the first human societal idea to confirm conflicts as contributing to a society, based on an agreement to include all people, a culture of democracy, a democratic citizenship of diversity. This is a culture of citizens as learners who change their minds. In a democratic society, you have to educate to support understanding not only of the rights you are given in society, but also the duty you have to respect the same rights for the others, your classmates, your neighbors, and those beyond your neighborhoods. This is why the school in a democracy has to be shared and for all. Education is not only an individual need, but also the need of a democratic society. Democracy gives us a very weak organizational idea of society, since it doesn't necessarily promote the idea of staying together or thinking the same. But unity is a necessity, so this is a paradox making democracy to something to live, to always research, to develop, to reimagine. To be able to support diversity, we in a broad sense have to agree on some shared values. The value of subjectivity, the value of contrast, variations and diversity, the value of mutual interdependence, negotiations and participations, and the value of learning as a right to change your mind. The problem is that even these agreements will be criticized in a democracy built on rights, because a democratic society encourages and values knowledge as a matter of different points of view, complexity and multiple interpretations in confronting dialogue. A citizen always in learning, in change. When the decision to attend school is compulsory, then it is not only a right but also a duty to participate. The school itself becomes a place where you meet others that you have not chosen. Therefore, you will find your citizenship identity in a public place that you have a duty to attend. Therefore, we have to meet children not as private learners, but as public learners, as citizenship learners. This is a focus on children's societal rights, as addressed in the United Nations Convention for All Children. Children's rights as citizens begin before the right of a public vote. This creates opportunities to think about and debate how educational organizations support societal ideals. Our standpoint is that schools should be places to formulate your own opinion and construct meaning in confronting with diverse perspectives. Therefore, we with Reggio Emilia can argue education is and as democracy. This is Reggio Emilia's gift to the world in our time. A challenge to see schools as tools for developing and fostering a renewed global democratic citizenship. And this is necessary addition to the brand and logo of the Reggio Emilia approach, opposing the risk of making it a method and a tick box approach. Reggio Emilia's approach to education says democracy is and as education. And this is a base for a belief that school can become micro-political places to make a difference, contributing to the health of a democratic community. This means that we in Sweden, as government, local communities, NGOs and individuals, as well as other friends in the rest of the world, have to accept the inspiration from Reggio Emilia as not merely a pedagogical, but personally a political, social and cultural challenge. Therefore, Reggio Emilia is the right place, is the right heritage for launching a charter for an international educational effort of today, connecting global thinking and local acting. Perhaps the most important questions to bring into focus when discussing Reggio Emilia in an international context are the questions of so many childhoods lacking schools or with only poor schools. The pandemic has highlighted the issue of educational poverty, both as a lack, but also as a poor educational practices and framings for learning for children. So this is a kick-off day for our charter. A charter that is coming out of the extraordinary schools in Reggio Emilia, but now also assessing the 10-year life of the foundation's experiences from our projects such as Fare Scuola and all others. The charter is a wish to become a tool for expanding what is called Reggio Emilia's approach to education and democracy, expanding from 0 to 6 to 0 to 99, expanding from Reggio Emilia to other cities and contexts worldwide. The foundation was a wish already of Loris Malaguzzi to make Reggio Emilia a harbor for sharing experiences. The important word was and has been participation, networking, creating projects, research as an attitude not only performed in academic context, but as citizens' actions to try and reach for a better world. In February 2022, celebrating Loris Malaguzzi's 100th birthday, our president Carla Rinaldi invited our different partners and others to become allies, making our foundations to a vehicle supporting some shared values and aims. For this, she already, before the pandemic, had initiated formulation of a charter on children's rights worldwide. With this draft, our managing director asked me to participate, making this text also considering the pandemic and coming and other ongoing pandemics. During this work, it has become clear that the Charter needs to be seen as a political platform for acting, not a scientific platform or an investigation. It has to become a dynamic tool for creating experiences together. Therefore, it's not a finite text, it is an infinite text for going on and starting new actions and projects with old and future partners. The Charter consists of two parts. The first part synthesizes a way of relating education to our shared and chosen values. This part is framing a worldwide image of a democratic society and community, creating alliances with families, children's right to be considered as full worthy participants in a democratic society from the beginning, childhood as vulnerable, stressing education as the most powerful tool for development and decency. The second part is scaffolding of visions and missions in a strategy for making this happen. So what do we need to do now? Well, let's go to work together. And the doing has already begun. But the important step today is to ask each one of us to relate to both parts of the Charter, to read every sentence of the first part and ask what does it mean and how can that contribute to your experiences, and then read and think where do my experience fit in a strategy for actions together with others. Please give us all your thoughts how this text can become a tool for our everyday work together. In a time screaming for hope, please let us help each other in mutual actions to create our charter, to a torch facing reality, but not inviting despair, but hopefulness and joy. At last, thank you for letting me being not a partner, but a part of a restart of a process towards an ecological, healthier and ongoing development of a global democratic society and citizenship. Keep me updated and good luck to us all.